Good evening, students. Welcome to this Internet of Things training. Thanks for showing interest in IoT course overview. We will cover this course in 10 days. Okay. Let me know your names. Shivarsha, Tarini, Tripura Sundari. What's your name? Durga. Okay. It's nice to know all of you. Let me start with today's agenda. We will cover these 4 topics today. Okay. That is, what is Internet of Things, what is Arduino board, and a brief introduction about Arduino IDE, and the last topic for the day is installation and drivers. Right? You can stop me whenever you are having some doubts or clarifications, or if I am going very fast, you can stop me at any point in time. Okay. So before going to the traditional definition of or Wikipedia definition of Internet of Things, let me start with a simple example to explain the concept of Internet of Things, right? So before we go into that, let me ask a very basic question. Okay, what is difference between a thing, okay, or a human, right? So we are seeing there are two things. For example, I have taken as a water bottle as one instance. Okay, can you tell me, Tarini, what is the difference? Things can move. Okay, things can. Oh, things cannot move, right? Human can move. Things can communicate. Yes. Okay, let me put this way. What are the possible things, items which thing cannot do? Okay, one is communication. Okay, and then decision making or intelligence. Okay, and senses. So these are the three things which a thing cannot do, right? It cannot communicate to another water bottle, or it cannot sense whether the bottle is full or empty. Then the third thing is, based on the intelligence, it cannot make its own order, like I have to be filled or I have to be emptied at this point in time. So these are the three things which makes difference between a human and thing, right? So whether is it by any chance we can convert these things also into a human being, like whether is it possible to make a thing to communicate, whether the things can sense, whether things can be enabled to make decision making? Yes, it is possible. So that is what is known as Internet of Things. Okay, that is almost converting any damn dumb thing into a almost a smart human being. So that is the objective, or in nutshell, a definition of Internet of Things. Okay, so how do you make it sensible thing? Because things in general will not have any sense. Okay, so that is where the sensor part comes into the picture, right? If you attach a sensor to this bottle, okay, for instance, it can be a float here, so it will be able to identify whether the bottle is filled or it is emptied or it is half empty. Okay, so I am making it sensible by attaching a small sensor to it. Okay, the next one is decision making. Okay, I am getting empty, I am 90% empty, only 10% water is left. What I have to do, right? So that is what a human brain decides, right? These type of decisions. So whether I can put a brain to this water bottle? Yes. So that is what is known as microcontroller unit, right? Say a small chip. Okay, you can put a chip into this water bottle and make it work. Okay, the third item is whether this bottle can communicate to other devices, other water bottles, or a water container, or a shop owner to deliver a new bottle. We can enable by putting a small communication devices such as RF device, Wi-Fi device, or GSM chip. Okay, I will explain all these terms later when we are going into the deep dive of these topics. Okay, so essentially we are making all these three things to the thing to make it a smart thing, right? What are the three things? Tripura, can you tell me? Sense, decision making, communicate. Good. So let us assume you may ask this question, okay, this is possible, then why it has not happened before? Why it is suddenly gained momentum in last 2 3 years, right? To answer it, can you tell me or imagine, can you think of any answers? Advancements in technology. Yeah, that is one reason, of course. Yeah, there are so many advances in different technologies. So what makes it possible? Okay, let me give a small example here, give more details. Okay, first one is the size of my sensor, okay, or size of my MCU or size of my communication chip need to be small enough. Okay, that cannot be more than the size of the water bottle, right? Then it is very difficult to fit into that water bottle and make it smart. Even if it is smart, nobody will be interested because that is becoming very clumsy, right? It will not be lookable and you don't want to carry such a bottle to your school, right? So how do you make, or what made this possible nowadays is the size of the sensors, the size of the chips are getting smaller and smaller. Okay, so that is reason number one. The second reason is the cost of the water bottle is almost cheap, right? You are getting for 15 20 rupees. So will anyone will invest more money to make it smart if it is not cheap, right? So that is the beauty of this advancement. The power of the computing power has become affordable, right? It become very cheap. The sensor cost is almost getting 1/10 of the cost of earlier times. The MCU cost is getting reduced. Okay, the last one is the computing power. Okay, the computing power of the chips or the technological advancements made it possible now. So meaning, because of these three reasons, I am able to create a small sized chips and sensors. I am able to create a very affordable small chipsets at an lower cost. The third one is the power of the computing is very fast, or there are so many devices or the platforms available for me to work out. So because of these three reasons, anything can be converted into the smart thing, or almost it can be made equivalent of an human being. So in nutshell, this is the definition or the high level overview of what is internet of thing. Okay, any doubts? Yes, this is water bottle is just an example. You can convert any smart anything into a smart thing. Okay, let me go to the next slide. Okay, here I had given a small example how we can use it, internet of things, in real life, right? First example is about AC unit. Now you people, 6 students come into this room, but at 5:30 myself and Varsha are the only 2 people. So that time my AC temperature may be bit on higher side. So when Tarini and Tripura Sundari entered, then Durga entered, I want to change that remote temperature, right? So if is it possible to attach a small sensor, maybe a motion detection sensor or the counter type of sensors, so that the remote AC unit will be able to understand there is a capacity increase and automatically adjust the temperature based on the availability of the people. So that is one use case where you can think of IoT can be used. Another example, I know most of you dropped by your father using your two-wheeler bikes, right? So you can tell me what time this bike went for maintenance before, or what is the frequency of maintenance? Tripura? Yes, it is frequency based. Normally it will be once in 6 months or once in a year, depending on the condition or the age of the bike. That is one condition. What is the other condition when you will take to the repair shop? The other condition is when the bike fails, the bike is not in operable condition, then you have to take this bike to the shop and repair it. So these are the two conditions normally we go to the maintenance, right? But with the internet of things available, I can make a preventive maintenance. Meaning you can imagine a situation when your father wants to drop you at this class at 6 o'clock, but your bike suddenly stopped at 5:45, you are not able to reach on time. Okay, so but if someone tells you yesterday itself your bike is under failure condition, it's going to fail tomorrow, would you like to get such a messages, right? So that is what is enabled by Internet of Things. Let me explain how is it possible. Okay, basically bikes will undergo maintenance where there is lubricant oil is missing, or brakes are not able to press, or there is some water failure. All these conditions will give some indications, right? If these indications including noise, so if these indications are measured by sensors, maybe the lubrication oil can be measured using a float, or the temperature can be measured using a temperature sensor, noise can be measured using a noise or sensor, and the speed can be checked using a speedometer and other sensors. So by measuring all these sensors and interpreting the data available, we can come to know whether the bike requires a maintenance or not well before it fails. Okay, instead of sending this bike every 6 months or every 1 year, we will send this maintenance of this vehicle only when it is required. So these are the two simple use cases you can think. So today's assignment is come out with some use cases which you can think IoT can be useful in your daily day to day life. Any doubts? How do you find whether the people are entering? Yeah, there are so many ways you can find it out, right? You can put a small motion sensor on the door, okay, which will detect if there is a movement, meaning if somebody opens the door then only someone can enter, right? So there will be a motion. Okay, so how do you find, what is the question? How do you find out whether the person is coming inside or outside? Oh, that's the interesting question. Okay, there are different ways you can do that. Okay, one way is you attach a sensor on both the sides. Okay, when the person is from the outside he enters, increment the count. When the person going from this side, decrement. That is one way. Otherwise you can determine the carbon dioxide emitted by the persons and divided by the average, so that you will get number of persons. There are many ways. That is where the creativity of the persons and the cost of the sensors, all those things will determine what is the best use case. Okay, so in nutshell we have to use sensors, microcontroller units, and then communicate the decision to the PC or some cloud based platforms. I will explain what are those IoT platforms in next class. Okay, doubts? Clear? Okay, the next topic is about Arduino Uno. I will explain what is this in a moment.